Good evening, and welcome back to Ethelred, worst Civ player on YouTube. Alright, it's 640. We've already got history to cover. In 630, Kent. By then, Kent was already a largely Christian nation. And by the way, I've figured out this is the Thames, and this is the Humber. And I've also figured out where some of the kingdoms are. I was wrong about some of them. So, for the in generalities here, between the Humber and the Thames was Mercian territory, except for over here, this was East Anglia. And down here, this is where a bunch of the little guys hung out. There was Essex, and then along here was Sussex, and over here was Wessex. So this unimproved hill tile is probably where Wessex, by and large, the main part of it actually was. Let's see, Northumbria, I'm not exactly sure. It says north in it. I'm figuring it's probably kind of up-ish, kind of here-ish. I don't know. Anyway, so that's that. By now, as 630, Kent's largely a Christian nation. And what else? Oh yes, Cyngils was the king of Gwissa, land of the West Saxons, or as we refer to it, Wessex, although it's not actually Wessex right now. The people at the time called it Gwissa. And Cyngils was kind of an unsavory type of dude who tried to assassinate Edwin of Northumbria, slayed over 2,000 Welsh, and lost territory to Mercia. And where are we? Nottingham. What are we going to produce in Nottingham? Well, we are still in the red. We could build a market. We could build a shrine on our way to a cathedral. That would be a happiness building. Hanging Gardens. Let's take a look. Is anybody else tradition? Liberty. 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 Me. Liberty. 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 Wow. You know what? Kinda tempted to go for Hanging Gardens. It's either that or a shrine. I'm feeling like that's maybe an easy decision. Okay. Alright, y'all gonna call me Wondermongers. I know. I know. Alright, what next? What do we got going on here? It's been a day since I played. Let's see, we're improving a bison tile. Alright, let's just do it. Oh, yes, quarry please. And just guard that place forever. Oh yes, the little trireme that could. Back one. We'll see if we can get to Japan in this episode. By the way, what do I plan on giving you guys in this episode? First off, we're going to go through the history of the Anglo-Saxons, and it's almost going to come to a close if my timing is approximately right. Oh my gosh, run away. Run away, run away, run away. Yeah, if my timing's approximately right, the Vikings will invade and burn everything to the ground by the time I'm done. So that'll be exciting. The invasion of the Vikings. What else? I also plan on getting 2 cities out. I know I told you I'd do that last time. Yay, that was fun. Just use my little trireme to take out a barbarian. And we have a settler. Ooh. I want to send it up here into Scotland. But I know if I do that, there's going to be barbarians up there. And if I don't do that, there's not barbarians up there, because that's just the way it goes. 670 already, oh my gosh. So Cyngils tried to assassinate Edwin of Northumbria, killed a bunch of Welsh, lost some territory to Mercia. Stayed in power for 30 years, though. He died in 642. At that time, Chinwal took the throne and did a really great diplomatic move. I remind you that the folks who are running Wessex right now are what I'm calling the usurpers. They were that nephew who kind of took over things and kicked the rightful guy out. and killed his family. So yeah, Cynwal takes the throne, and he pulls a really great diplomatic move. He immediately divorces his wife, and that wife happens to be the Christian sister of King Penda of Mercia. So remember, Mercia is the big boy here in the middle, runs like all of central Britain. And a word about Penda, because he's kind of an outsized character. This guy was like the epic warrior king. I mean, you think of all the stereotypes of warrior king, the guy, big burly guy, hand axe, shield, running into battle, calling out whatever city he's from, and slaying his enemies. That was Penda. So that was like him in the flesh. And, well, he takes umbrage at the fact that this Cynwal divorces his sister. What, my sister's not good enough for you? What about a political agreement between us, huh? You know, you marry my sister and we're alliance, and no, but you can't be married to my sister because she's what? Ugly? She's got warts? By the way, I think these guys probably know where I am by now. So Penda goes on the warpath and just totally kicks over Wessex. Actually, like, kicks in the door so hard to Wessex that he manages to, if I'm right, I think he exiles Cynwal. Let's see. I got another note here. 645. This monk called Aidan and King Oswald set out to converting the kingdom of Northumbria. Cuthwine is still alive. He watches Penda storm into Wessex, and exile Cynwal for his insult. But a few years later, Cynwal comes crawling back out of a rock and rules Essex for another 30 years. So that was 645. 655, I want to tell you about this thing called a Wittengermacht. So I told you last episode about the moots, and that's where you get all the wise people of the village together. Well, a Wittengermacht was an evolution on that. I didn't see, was that 30 gold or 15? Huh. Wow. And a natural wonder. Super. We've got a little extra happiness. Speaking of happiness, what are we going to do for happiness? Oh, this temple will give us 2 happiness. Is there something I could be doing down here for happiness? No. I don't see it except for building a shrine in order to build a temple eventually. But, alright. It is what it is. So, what was I saying? Yeah, the Wittengermacht. Sorry. So, the Wittengermacht was like the moot, except that it was only for the elite, for the aristocracy. So what I mean by that are like thanes, aldermen. Those are the bureaucrats who run things. Aldermen, that's it. The aldermen and the thanes and people like that. See, there's a barbarian, isn't there? Oh, I'm medieval now. Oh, okay, but that's a ship. All right. So the Wittengermacht is now like a formalized moot where you have this council of thanes and aldermen who advise the king. The king can call them for any reason, like, I want you to go figure out what's the best way to dam the river or whatever. And they'll go figure that out. But they also have power which goes up to and includes deposing the king. So in a way, the Wittengermacht is like kind of like I'm hesitating, right? It's not a senate, it's not a parliament, because they're not democratically elected. But they've got power over the ruler, right? So it's kind of like a checks and balances thing. I'm going to go exploration. I'm going to explain why. That's why I've been waiting here at the screen for me to stop talking about the Wittengermacht. Because, not really so much because of the +1 movement for naval units and sight for naval units. Although, yeah, I get it. That would kind of theme with England, right? But the +3 production in all coastal cities, that's almost entirely it right there, because all my cities are coastal. And then +1 gold for each harbor. They're all going to have harbors. So I'm going to get +1 gold for every harbor, seaport, or lighthouse, and +4 production and +4 culture in the city with the East India Company. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go the exploration route for a couple of policies until Renaissance, and then we'll do rationalism. And up here, we're going to go for education because I know I'm behind on science. All right. You know what? Let's skip a turn and let the settler catch up. Meantime, we're going to sneak through Colombo, and we are going for Japan. What else is around here? 7:30. I'm not keeping up with the times. 664, the Synod of Whitby brought Northumbria into mainstream Roman Catholic culture, and the episcopal seat was moved from Lindisfarne to York. I throw this in, so that's kind of like yawn, but I throw this in just because when I say that Catholicism was taking over England, I mean it in a big way. It's tempting to think about the role of Catholicism in Anglican life through the point of view of the 21st century secular world that we live in. But no, for these guys, God was constant. God was always present. And there's so many kings that convert and get baptized over the next couple of years. The conversion really hits the Anglo-Saxons hard. So let's see, 672, Cinwald dies with no clear line of succession. This was a typical Wessex move. I mentioned in the last episode that the idea of primogeniture, which is that the kingdom passes to the oldest son, that really wasn't so much a Anglican thing, an Anglo-Saxon thing, not so much. I mean, Mercia did it a little bit, and some of the other kingdoms tried it out, and they were experimenting with it. But Wessex, they almost never did it. And so when the king died, it was up to the Wittengermach to find a new king, and they could argue for years. Anyway, so Cinwald died with no clear line of succession. His queen took over for a year. That's kind of cool. And then a couple of thanes and aldermen tried to fill his seat. Meanwhile, Mercia just ate Wessex's lunch, and the Heptarchy solidified. So remember what I said. What did I even just say to this guy? The Heptarchy was the 7 kingdoms of Britain, the 7 main ones, right? So that's, ooh, look. It's round control face, as Marb would say. Hello? Wow, I should go kill your settler, but I'm a peaceful little trireme, and I want none of that. So the Heptarchy was, let's see if I can name them without looking at my notes. Essex, Sussex, Wessex, that's 3. East Anglia, that's 4. Mercia, that's 5. Northumbria, that's 6. And Kent, that's 7. I got them all. So this political organization of 7 kingdoms became more or less ironclad kind of during this period of time. And all the little guys fade away. And it's basically the 7 big bad boys. So let's see. That's right. Mercia's ascendant. 676, Chentwine emerges from the chaos of secession. And this guy's new name is Chentwine. Okay. He reigned for 9 or 10 years in Wessex before he retired to Rome to become a monk. So this is something that they did a lot of, these Anglo-Saxon kings. When they would get old, or when some kind of, we don't know, right? We're going to guess. Some kind of political maneuvering happens that says, all right, your time is done. You can either leave or die. Or who knows, maybe they're just, it would be better for the people if there was younger blood. That's often what they would say, is they would cede the throne for younger blood. That's what they would say. And they would go to Rome to conduct a pilgrimage, and they would retire and become a monk in Rome. That's pretty convenient, right? I mean, I don't want to be cynical, but that sounds like a great way to get rid of a king, is to exile him to Rome and say he's going there to be a monk. But anyway, so Chentwine did that. He retired off to Rome. And in 680, Britain was in what a historian, Michael Drout, called the Golden Age of monastic learning. And really, the Golden Age of the Anglo-Saxons was ascendant right now. So when he said the Golden Age of monastic learning, what he means is that abbeys and monasteries and nunneries and convents were popping up all over Britain. And because the religious could read and write, whereas really nobody else in the peasantry could, and that meant that there was an influx of people were learning how to read, and they were learning how to write, and the religion was not just being a faith, but it was also being a mover of literacy and culture in Britain. So in 685, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Cadwalla, the grandson of Cuthwine, becomes king of Essex. So this guy, remember Cuthwine? That was the guy who escaped the burning house when all of his family was slaughtered by the nephews who were usurpers. Yeah, Cuthwine waited all that out. And hold on, I lost my spot here. Yeah, the grandson of Cuthwine has become king of Wessex. So he waited that. He saw these other kings come and go. He had some kids. His grandson is now king, and the correct and proper line of Wessex is restored in 685. So this guy, it would be, hold on, silly dog. That's my sidekick, the silly brown puppy who gets into things. Anyway, so this guy who comes back to, I'm the rightful guy who should be running Wessex, he immediately goes to the Isle of Wight and commits genocide there. So it's not exactly the fantasy telling of the wonderful dude. And then he takes a mortal wound on the Isle of Wight while he's fighting these guys. And he decides, because he's going to die, it's clear he's got a belly wound or something, that he's going to go become a Christian and get baptized. So he heads off to Rome and gets baptized and becomes a Christian. And dies. He dies 10 days after he gets baptized. And in typical Wessex fashion, he died with no clear line of succession, so they didn't even know what to do then. That was great. And now that we've got that tile improved, we'll go improve some more bison. Okay, so Mercia starts chewing up on Wessex, and whenever Wessex falls into disorder over these fights over secession, then Mercia just eats their lunch. Now in 688, this guy called Ina comes to power. Let's move our little trireme. We're going to hug Siam here. Okay, Kuala Lumpur. No other moves. Barbarians. Got it. Alright, so Ina he's an exceptional guy. With this guy we see, and I was sticking to the House of Wessex because that's where English royalty eventually derives from. But with this guy we see somebody who's not just a warlord. Well, sorry about that. Scrolling. He's not just the warrior king, go burn the village of our enemies kind of guy. This guy's actually a statesman. He does some good in reorganizing the church. He tries to sort out inefficiencies and get convents and monasteries to running in the most effective, efficient possible means. He also mints coins. Wessex starts minting coins under Ina, and he establishes a code of law. So, law codes are something that they don't come around every time. Like you hear about a code of laws in Greece or a code of laws in Babylon under Hammurabi. Well, Ina creates his own code of laws. And so that's big right there because now the people of his kingdom, they've got some kind of rule of law for the first time ever. And it's big in a second way. The document survives because it was attached to another king's law code. And in the attached document, Ina's law code, you see the first reference to a word that we're all familiar with, which is England. So he is now describing this land as England. That's the first time that's done. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to clean my mouse. So next turn, it is 775, and I'm getting way ahead of myself in history. So the Anglo-Saxon elite enter the monasteries, and wealth starts to pour into the church. That swells the power of the church immensely, especially when you've got Anglo-Saxon kings who are, what is this? Kuala Lumpur. Is that really where? You stupid dog! Aha! That's the source of the troubles. Darn dog. Yeah, now that you've got kings retiring and becoming monks, the faith is becoming very affluent. What else? 688. So great. Nothing else until 726, which we've already passed. Ina abdicated, left for Rome as a monk, as usual, and a guy named Ethelred took the throne, and he immediately lost a bunch of territory to Mercia. Good job, guy. And in 740, Ethelred made the usual pilgrimage to Rome. I guess his time was done, so he went to go become a monk. He was replaced by a guy named Ethelred. By now, Wessex was, because it keeps losing territory to Mercia, now they're basically a puppet kingdom of Mercia. And in fact, the Mercian king even ordered Wessex to fight on their behalf against the Welsh. So that's how much of a puppet they were at that point, that they were actually being ordered to go fight and die on your behalf. Where are we going to plant this city? I'm thinking actually right at this very spot is not bad, because that would put it between a mountain and a coast with fish tiles here and here. Yeah, that's not altogether bad. I'm thinking that's where we're going to plant that. All right, 750, Athene attempted a rebellion against Ethelred, and Ethelred had him killed, because that's what happens to rebels. And at this point, really in 750, we're going to say this is the height of Anglo-Saxon power in Britain. The Heptarchy is in full power. 752, Ethelred rebelled against Mercia and got some independence for themselves against the Mercian king with a successful battle or two against them. So trying to, win some independence for themselves again a little bit, get out from under the yoke of Mercia. 756, this guy named, this is an interesting story. So I'm going to just stare at London for a second while we talk about this, because this was a guy named Sigebert who takes the throne, and he was immediately accused, I guess by the Wittengermacht, of unjust acts, and the Wittengermacht deposed him as king. And they said, you can't be king of Wessex, but don't worry, we'll give you Hampshire. You can be the king of Hampshire, or the mayor of Hampshire, I guess. So this guy, what's his name? Sigebert, the deposed king, accused of unjust acts. He goes to Hampshire and he's the mayor there. And while he's there, he gets accused of murder. And so this fellow Cynewulf, who's all of a sudden the new king of Wessex, decides he's going to put an end to Sigebert. So he surrounds Hampshire, and his men go in, and they find Sigebert, and they kill him. And now Sigbert's brother is with Sigebert when he dies. So this is another one of those kind of epic situations. So the brother fights and then escapes, and he sees his brother killed by Cynewulf's men. And he believes Sigebert was the true king of Wessex. Now you hear the Wittengermacht say it. They're going to say Sigebert was this disgusting man who did unspecified unjust acts and then was accused of murder, and this guy had to die. Now there's one more thing to this story. Cynewulf, as soon as Sigbert's dead, where does he go? He goes to the throne of Mercia, and he bends the knee to Mercia. So that's kind of an interesting diplomatic mission. Was this whole thing arranged by Mercia to get Cynewulf on the throne, thinking that they would have a puppet king in Mercia? And if that's the case, that didn't work out too good for Mercia, because actually, the next year or the year after that, Wessex assassins killed the Mercian king. So, and Cynewulf then went on to rule for 30 years or so. So 770, okay, with the assassination of the Mercian king, Mercia went into chaos, civil war for a little while. And out of that came this King Offa, who, I didn't read everything about Offa. He was a really big figure. He started minting coins. He started having diplomatic relations with Europe. In fact, he was even, I guess, friends with Charlemagne. He was that important. Let's plant the city. Hastings! Alright, and we can straight away kill some barbarians. Oh, wow. I didn't think I would be able to shoot him with the... That's nice. Let's set up some production here. We're going to do actually a granary first, and then we're going to do a library, and then a shrine, and actually maybe a market before the library, and then a lighthouse. Yeah, we'll do a build order like that. So there's Hastings. What are we building next? I think we're building another settler. I think that's what. Look at that. We're at -2 happiness. How much until we have enough for a profit? A long time. If I get a profit, all I'm going to do with him is plant him and turn him into a holy site for more faith. And I want to do that, but at the same time, I feel like I need to min-max right now. So I'm going to buy a pagoda. And I'm happy again. Okay. Hopefully not too many turns of unhappiness have passed while I've been blathering. What else has happened? So yeah, Offa comes to power. Charlemagne loves him. He mints his coins. And he does a lot to secure Mercia as the preeminent power, as if they needed any more consolidation. And I think actually under Offa, Mercia reached its height. And Mercia was so powerful at this point that it was called the Mercian Supremacy. That they were head and shoulders above all the other kingdoms, and everybody kind of did whatever Mercia said. So I guess you could say Offa was the Bretwalder. And in 786, Cynewulf, the guy who came to power under suspicious circumstances and then assassinated the Mercian king, well, he himself was surprised. Him and all of his thanes were surprised and killed by guess who? Sigbert's brother. That guy nursed a grudge for something like 30 years. And he got revenge. And he killed Cynewulf and all of his thanes. So, wow. That's pretty dramatic. Alright, that brings us to 789. Oh yeah, something interesting happened in 789. A new people who were strangers to Britain landed at Dorset and attacked the place. Guess who these guys were? They were the Vikings. They're going to come on strong. I told you that Anglo-Saxons, they reached their high point about 50 years ago. That's because there's a storm coming. So let's see. That was 789. 802. Yeah, we can do 802. This guy named Egbert is now the king of Mercia. And he whoops Mercia. He finally turns the tables on Mercia. And he whoops them up one side and down the other. So he starts kicking all kinds of Mercian butt. Alright, let's play some Civ. You're just going to stand there and watch as the workers set up a camp. So we can get production and food off of that bison. What more? Okay, on our eternal quest for Japan and to circumnavigate the world, the little trireme that could heads around. Glad that we're happy, but we won't be happy for long because somebody's going to grow here soon. Apparently not Hastings since they're stagnating. That's no good. Oh, run away. Run away from the... Oh my gosh, there's... I've got 3 more movement. I could move... a whole bunch of places where I could get attacked. Let's move here and hope that this galley doesn't come get us. And in fact, since I'm now where I can see these 2 units can see one another, I'm going to see if they can help one another out. And this archer will just chill out. Look, we're not losing any gold. We're at 0 gold and 0 net gold and 0 happiness, which is a huge improvement for us. Yeah, just spend the turn right there. So I feel like the best thing to do with this guy is to send him to Hastings and get some food going up there. Although what I really want to do is send him to Copenhagen and get 10 gold and 3 science. This is a surprisingly difficult choice because I can really bootstrap Hastings right now by sending that route up there. But you know, as soon as I do that, they're going to grow and I'm going to be unhappy. And then all my cities are going to be at negative 75% food. So I'm going to go Copenhagen. And the next time that comes up for an option, I'll send him to send food up to Hastings. So, wow, really? It's already been 30 minutes? That's unbelievable. But I still have things that I want to do. I still have things that I want to talk about. I still want to get the little trireme that can someplace where it can do something. Okay. Yes, let's work together, Denmark. By all means. Let's see if the little trireme dies. Don't die. Don't die. Shoo. Don't die. Don't die. Oh, man. That's great. I guess these triremes, they don't really attack unless they have to or something. Wow. That's a lot of barbarians. Alright, let's start shooting them. And what? We're going to skip that. We're going to come over here. Settler in 6 turns. So in this episode, I only got 1 new city up, and that's Hastings. I didn't get 2. But we're working on Hanging Gardens. We're working on a temple. We're going to need a shrine after that so we can... Son of a gun. So that we can get another temple for happiness. And what are we going to do here for happiness? We're going to do a temple here for happiness. And in York, we're going to do a Colosseum. And we're going to focus on happiness. Son of a gun. I don't want to scroll across the world. 850. Let's take this episode a little bit long because I've got just a little bit further to go. And we'll get to a stopping point with the end of the sun setting on the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. So that was 850. 850, the last British kingdom, Demonia. Remember I mentioned them last turn? Well, they're snuffed out. At this point, it's heptarchy or nothing. And Ethelwulf, this Wessex king, this guy's a hoot. He has a whole bunch of kids, and they're all named Ethel something. What? Oh, Machu Picchu. I thought that was the Hanging Gardens. That would have stunk. So a bunch happened in this turn. Let's talk some history and then let's process through all of these things. So Demonia was snuffed out. Ethelwulf, the king of Wessex, had a dozen Ethel kids. And then, oh yeah, this guy, he decided I don't know what to think about this. This guy decided he was going to go just take a vacation from being king. Ethelwulf. So he goes to Rome, says, I'll be back in a year. I just want to go be a monk for a year. And he divided up Wessex amongst his kids. A whole bunch of Ethel kids. They all have names that start with Ethel. And he goes to Rome for a year, and when he comes back, his kids are like, yeah, no, you're not getting anything back. We're the king now. We're all sharing. Like, he's over in Kent, and I'm managing Sussex, because by now Wessex had expanded enough power that they were starting to kind of overlord Kent and Sussex a little bit. And yeah, Ethel Bob over there, he's the mayor of Hampshire, and I'm the general king. So yeah, you screwed up, you left, you snooze, you lose, whatever. So now we've got, in 858, we've got Ethelbald, the son of the Ethel guy. He's the king of Wessex. He shares his power equitably with his brothers. And the only problem is he's not really a very good king. He's not a good warrior. He's definitely not a statesman. He just kind of sucks. And in 860, Ethelbald dies. Another Ethel kid takes a turn being a king. Meanwhile, the Vikings destroy part of Kent and wage a major siege of Winchester. And so the Vikings now are hitting things and burning things, And the Ethels are, I mean, they're not quarreling. I didn't read anywhere where they're stabbing each other in the back. The Ethel kids, they all seem to get along fine. You know, one of them will be king for a year and then die. And then another one will be king for a year and then die. And I don't know if they're assassinating one another or if they're just old. But anyway, so and the Vikings are taking advantage of this. So let's steal something. Let's steal guilds. So now we can build trading posts and the East India Company. That'll be neat. And that got James promoted. Meta City State, Machu Picchu was built. Bora Bora was built. And we're going to shoot them thar barbarians. Meanwhile, we're going to see what's over here. More barbarians. That's 860. 865. Yet another Ethel kid comes to power. I guess the previous one died, so they're just cycling through them. And the Vikings continue to burn and destroy things. 865, yet another Ethel kid comes to power. And they've all proven themselves to be miserable. The Vikings continue to raid shorelines and raise cities. And in 867, the Vikings go from just hitting a village and running to where did all them freaking Vikings come from? They did this huge, massive land invasion, and the sea of Vikings are suddenly crawling all over Britain. And interestingly enough, they seem to come in from like up here and march south. So the first people to get it, to bite the bullet from the Vikings, is Northumbria and East Anglia. So that's over here. So they come in, I guess they take out Northumbria, they take out East Anglia, and then they start hitting Mercia. 871, the last Ethel kid dies, and this guy named Alfred the Great takes up the family throne of Wessex. Alfred the Great, one of only two people in British history to have the surname of the Great. And we're going to talk in the next episode about him. He goes on to be a fantastic king, not just in the wars against the Vikings, but also he was reputed to be a wise and just leader and also an excellent military tactician. So in 874, we'll run one more turn. We'll hit them, and we'll sneak back up a notch. Okay, 874. How many years are passing per turn now? That was 870, and the new one is... Wait for it. 880, so 10 years are passing now. Alright, fair enough. I think we can probably sneak this guy by now. 880. Mercia is destroyed. The first among equals for all those years of the Anglo-Saxon glory, over. The Vikings snuffed it out like that. Where these guys came from, we'll talk a little bit about in the next episode. Mercia is a smoldering heap. And the Vikings are marching south across the River Thames to hit Wessex, where Alfred the Great is going to try to resist them. This guy calls himself now King of the Anglo-Saxons, or King of the English. So you have now, in one corner, the Vikings that have destroyed everything on Britain, and in the other corner, King Alfred the Great, King of the English. Thank you very much for sticking with me through this episode. If you liked it, please click like. If you didn't like it, please click dislike. I'll take a dislike. And if you want to hear more episodes like this, click subscribe. Thank you very much. You have a great day.